Hello, everyone. I'm Felicia Rondo, and that's close over there.
Mm.
And today we're looking at the latest issue of the IDW's published Sonic the Hedgehog comic series. Today it's issue 61. It's written by Evan Stanley, art by Adam Bryce Thomas, colors by. I'm doing the credits right now when we're supposed to do that after the cover. My apologies.
You can do just finish the credits.
Yeah, the color artists are Rick Mack and Valentina Pinto because they can apparently credit more than one color artist. Amazing. Letterer Sean Lee, who knows how long that's going to last.
Mm-hmm.
Editors Riley Farmer, David Merritt. It came out today, and we're reviewing it today.
Yeah.
So, this last part of the urban warfare storyline, it started out bad, and it's bad now too. So yeah,
It's also been bad in between those 2 points.
you're right, and you said it. Um,
Yeah.
so
There
like, yeah,
there was regrettably no point during this arc where I feel like it got good. It became less bad at one point. It became more tolerable,
yeah,
but it never got good, which
yeah.
sucks.
Up until this point, there's been this sense, and I may have gone over this in the last review, but like up until like urban warfare, there's been this overall impression of like, okay, when Ian's doing the comic, it's usually bad, but when Evan's doing the comic, it's generally good. And, or it had always really been good when Evan was on the comic before, like, issue, I guess, 55, 56. And, yeah,
Yeah.
as of this story, writer Evan Stanley has posted on her Tumblr that they did co-write the story together, her and Ian Flynn, and it is painfully apparent in this story.
Yeah. It's
Bad.
yeah. So why were there shadow androids? Remember when there were shadow
Oh
androids?
my! They were shadow androids last. Holy shit! They weren't in this issue.
Yeah, I mean maybe there was like one in the background somewhere, but
So stay tuned in the stream for Shadow Android Watch for us to keep an eye out for any shadow androids that appear and call it out when they do. But yeah, they made a big deal out of that like a couple issues ago, and then and they were still around last issue, and now they're gone, and nothing was like done in the story with them.
yeah, like they were a pretty generic threat, and they never really impacted the story in a meaningful way. There was never even like there was a slight moment where Whisper was reliving her trauma, but
Yeah,
that moment passed pretty. I mean, like it led to a moment I appreciated,
yeah, that was a good moment.
but that was really it.
And I just want to stress, like that is what a good moment looks like. By the way,
Hmm.
because when you get so used to shit, it can get easy to like forget what like an actual good moment in a comic feels like, and that was a good moment in the comic.
Yeah, when Tangle was comforting Whisper and just giving her time to have emotions.
Yeah, it was a legitimately good scene in this legitimately bad arc.
Hmm. We can give credit where it's due.
We can, and we have. It's all done now.
Yeah, it's been the credit has come in. It was due a while ago, and
We
we
gave
gave
it
it then
then.
too. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're just bringing it up now again.
It'd be nice if the
Hmm.
credit was due today.
Hmm.
But yeah. So if we may just go to the cover here,
Yeah.
this cover that would be very appropriate for issue 57.
It really feels like this cover belongs on the beginning of the arc.
Yeah, yeah, and
It
like
features Sonic, Tangle, Whisper, and Lanolin all getting caught in a spotlight while being surrounded by Smegman robots, which
yeah,
feels very apropos for the beginning of the arc when Tangle and Whisper and Lanolin get trapped in the weird other dimensional machine while they're journeying with Sonic and only Sonic.
Yeah, it's the one time in the whole comic where all these four are together, the beginning of the arc.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have a cover A featuring Tangle and Whisper and give people false hope for what the arc's going to contain.
Yeah.
It's overall, I would say as far as art quality goes, this is one of the better covers. I'm not like a big like cheerleader for Mauro Fonseca. I think I'm saying his name right. I think I'm saying his name wrong, but like
Mm-hmm.
uh this is overall I think a better effort in the painted style that he's been doing that we saw like during Overpowered. He did like a painted cover for like Surge versus Whisper, which was fine, kind of rough around the edges, but fine. And this is all right, especially compared to like some of the covers we've gotten this arc. But
The biggest problem with this cover is that it just really is not representative of the issue, and it's weirdly representative of a couple issues ago, which I think has been like, haven't we
yeah.
made this complaint multiple times during this arc of like,
Remember last issue where we were like, this would be a really good cover for last issue?
it's weird.
It is weird. Like this comic, honestly, it just there's so many weird parts we're gonna get to, but like yeah, so quality wise, it's pretty competently done, I'd say. It's just not really the right time for it.
Yeah.
In the comic itself, you get the credits first thing, and you have like all the credits here with the colors. And I'm just gonna bring up again. These are the color artists that worked on this comic. As far as we know, I'd like to say that we know for sure this is everyone who worked on it, but I honestly can't.
I
So
feel like if they were bringing in two color artists that they are bothering to credit, they're probably not bringing in a third secret ringer color artist that we are not getting to know of. I feel like we probably only have to worry about uncredited work if there's only one credited colorist.
yeah,
Probably.
probably. Story so far page still shit. Except okay, I just noticed because remember last issue the story so far page featured this same panel at the top, but like and then it had the giant shadow androids panel taking
Mm-hmm.
up so much space and so much time that you could have put more of the story in. But here it is conspicuously absent. That panel, along with the shadow androids, this issue.
Yeah. Instead, we get the bizarre panel from I think it was last time when Sonic logistically must have taken his suit off because there's no way he can be stretching
Just
and also
wiggling
his
it.
toe be that high in the air. Anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
We have two panels that of Silver trying to get to Shadow inside of the yellow crystal structure he's inside.
Yes, and
But no actual resolution to Silver's name being called by who knows, it was Blaze.
and
And yeah, it all ends on Eggman's time for Plan B, where the city gets legs, the tower gets
the
legs.
tower, the central command tower, gets legs, and
Does it ever walk in this
I don't
issue?
remember it walking. I think it just kind of gets up and then they stop it.
Like, I guess it's gotten up so that the crystals won't damage it, but like, it doesn't ever. I don't think do anything.
Just keep an eye out for. Keep an eye on Central Command Tower watch for any times that the Central Command Tower walks. If it walks, we'll call it out.
Mm-hmm.
But the cast page is still full of bad art and has too many characters on it.
Yeah, I, there are too many characters in this arc, and but now that the arc has finished, I think that we're pretty safe to look through all the named characters that are called out on the cast page, and determine which ones actually mattered in the arc.
That's true. That's a very good point. Let's look. Okay, so
So we
Sonic.
start with Sonic the Hedgehog. Of course, Sonic was doing a lot in this arc.
Yeah.
Nothing that it needed him, I think. Other characters could have fulfilled his role, but he is the main character, so I'm not going to say that he shouldn't have been here. It makes sense that he was here. You could have told basically the story without him, but I think he was involved in enough events and did enough things that he's really earned his presence in the story.
Yeah. Next we have Tangle the Lemur.
Tangle, of all of the Diamond Cutters, was the only one to really do anything.
Yeah.
So, by and large, out of the next three characters after Sonic, Tangle is the most deserving to be in this story because he did things.
Mm-hmm. After that, Whisper the Wolf.
Now, Whisper, unfortunately, has some of the worst moments in this arc,
Yeah.
in the first couple issues, but also has, like, one of the only good moments in this arc.
Mm-hmm. And otherwise, he's a
and
non-entity in the comic.
yes, see, he doesn't really do anything, but for a comic so in dire need of emotional resonance, I would not say that removing Whisper would be a good thing, because it would remove the one actual good moment in the comic. So, Whisper, mostly an ancillary character in this arc, but does have a moment, so there's that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Then we have Lanolin the Sheep.
And of course, what could we have done without Lanolin's skills, like her skills that she has, and everyone knows about, and I know about them too. I'm just waiting for you to say what they are, so that I know that you know what they are. Her skills.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Her skills that could have helped Tangle find the others.
Right. Yeah, the one that Tangle brought up.
If she were there, she could have used her skills that she has. I still don't know what they're doing with this character.
Raiden Redneck in chat writes, Lanolin's so skilled we don't even have to mention what they are. And I don't have to think of any skills. I agree.
Lanolin really doesn't have a role in the comic overall, let alone this arc. It's very bizarre how she was an ascended background cameo character. I believe Adam Bryce Thomas's design.
Yes.
Yeah, because like he would draw her in various issues, and then in Test Run, she technically became a character. Like she got an actual proper design that was looked over by Sega and everything.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is, and we've brought this up before, but since we're talking about the characters and we're just talking about why they're here and why they shouldn't be, when Lanolin was first being a proper named character, she had a very different seeming personality to what we are actually getting in this arc, which basically means that her introduction as a character started in this arc.
Yes.
Because all we had to go on before was that she seemed to be a bipolar stereotype.
Mm-hmm. That's what it honestly seemed to be, and the fact that it's very conspicuously gone now.
It just feels like maybe someone along the editorship line or at Sega or somewhere, just someone in the creative process seems to have vetoed the previous characterization, because otherwise, I don't know, maybe when the next arc rolls around, she'll just suddenly have that back, and it will just be weird how it wasn't here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lanolin has a lot of unknowns. I don't really know what she adds to the group dynamic in terms of, like, abilities. She has a wisp, but it's not, like, useful. Mm-hmm. It's the music note wisp.
Yeah.
This issue bafflingly introduces, it's actually featured on the cover, I only noticed while we were looking at the cover as the review started, but it bafflingly features the fact that her cowbell, where she keeps her wisp, apparently can transform into a weird baton that, when it was done transforming, I thought it was in the middle of transforming still, because it didn't look done.
Which, it's weird that she has that, considering that, like, Whisper has the variable Wispin from the Diamond Cutters, and they were like a totally different thing, as opposed to like...
In fairness, the Wispins featured in Sonic Forces all do have transformations. They have two states. They have like their regular shooting state, and then they're making use of the Wisp state. So it makes sense that a Wisp-using tool would have two modes.
I suppose so. I just think about how, like...
But it's weird that it didn't come up before. Unless it... I don't think it did. I think she just tapped it in its base form, and then made, like, echolocation waves at one point, I think?
Yeah.
I think that happened in this arc?
That happened, and, like... I just think about how, like, the Wispins happened in Forces during wartime. Mm-hmm. The Restoration, as a General Rule is not like a military organization. It's like a humanitarian organization that's meant to like rebuild and maintain the world. But like I guess since
Yeah.
they're doing the Diamond Cutters, which is supposed to be a blah 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 military.
Yeah, something Metal Gear.
Yeah. So I guess they just have that now. And that's lanolin. Should I be reading the subtitles that are on this cast page?
No.
Okay. Because next we have Amy Rose.
I guess it's worth pointing out that Tangle... there, I don't think there were always two subtitles, were there? Maybe there were.
Maybe there... I think there was for a
But
while.
Tangle, Whisper, and Lanolin all have their own subtitle that doesn't matter, and then they're also all said to be Diamond Cutter. Because apparently someone decided that Tangle and Whisper needed a third wheel, and again, it's mentioned Lanolin didn't have to be here. Lanolin does not get the stamp of approval. Lanolin did not remotely have to be here. This was a terrible introduction to her character because I still don't know what her deal is in terms of personality or abilities. We only just got the fact that she has a transforming cowbell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what it does. Like, she does a thing with it, but I don't know what she did. We'll get to it in the review, and maybe we can puzzle it out together. But I don't know why she transformed it, or what it accomplished, or why she would do it in the future, or why I would be excited if she did it in the future.
Yeah.
So Lanolin gets a big ol' red stamp of X of, why are you here? Don't be here. There are too many characters. You didn't need to be here.
Okay. Amy Rose.
Amy Rose. Mm-hmm. Amy and Tails were the first two friends to sew up.
Mm-hmm.
They were joined by Silver and Blaze, weren't they? It was 4 at a time?
Yeah.
And overall, Amy was just really kind of doing generic things.
Yeah.
There was nothing that Amy did in this arc that required Amy. She's a pretty big character, and like the fact that she knows everyone, I guess, is irrelevant. But
I think like she saved us time by finishing Metal anticlimactically and quickly.
Yeah, she put him down a hole one time,
which I guess saved the comic schedule because it needed to finish in this issue.
Yeah,
but
and they
like,
wasted so much time in the first two.
Yeah. But like, they could have just saved time in the first two issues. So
yeah,
I don't think Amy qualifies as like a necessary part of this story.
No, because like any other character, like Tangle, could have just taken Amy's place effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Like, writing Amy Rose out of this story would be very, very easy because there's no emotional beats with her. There's no particular, like, element that hinges on her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Amy gets a big old red X stamp of doesn't need to be here.
Then we have Tails.
Tails technically did stuff.
He did the plan of, like, shutting down the things.
He hacked into Eggman's computer last issue. He discovered that the Chaos Emeralds were Chaos Emeralds, the giant artificial ones.
I feel like with some creative writing, you could have had other characters do that. And also, I'd like to point out, even as like your Tails was doing a bunch of technobabble to like explain Imperial City, the big epiphany we had about Imperial City came from Tangle noticing the trees were dying. So you could definitely make an argument that Tails kinda belongs here, but like it's a very loose stamp of approval, like very faint.
Yeah, we'll give Tails a half point. And let's say that Whisper also was getting a half point.
So they make 1 point together.
Yeah.
Silver
and Blaze, let's just do them both as one because
they were both very joined at the hip in this story and very similarly useless.
There are, other than generically fighting robots and generically giving assistance that other characters could have done, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's everything. They didn't need. they're honestly the reason why we're talking about them and Lanlin. Because why is Lanlin here? But Silver and Blaze are a big reason why we're even talking about why are characters here. Because
Yeah.
they didn't add anything. Like, Silver was kind of just arbitrarily the one to tear through Sato's Yellow Crystal prison and reach him, which we'll get to later in this issue, how that worked out. Mm-hmm. There is no reason why it couldn't have just been Ruse.
Yeah. Honestly, that was one of the low points, the low lights of last issue, was just how, honestly, kinda misogynistic the framing was, where Rouge is useless and Blaze is only useful in encouraging Silver to overcome the odds and help save Shadow.
Yeah, it's really not what I typically would expect from Evan Stanley, and it was really bad.
Yeah.
Especially as, like, there is no emotional resonance reason why it should be Silver to being the one getting through to Sato. They have barely any history. They don't know each other. Like, there's nothing connecting these two characters. Whereas Ruse could have actually had anything to say to Sato.
Yeah.
Have had history to pull on.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was generically just like, hey, remember all the history we have?
Remember that would have been references fine. We can pull out here?
But there's no reason why Silver and Blaze should have been here. They're just here for fan service, and honestly, with how little they get to do, other than Silver, for some reason, just stealing Ruse's thunder, I don't know why you'd even bother. There are too many characters, and their presence pulls away focus from other characters that really needed it more.
Yeah, they are, in fact, less than useless. They are actively hurting this story by being in it.
Yeah, like, Lanlin overall, I think, just kind of works out to being neutral. Mm-hmm. Just because he was mostly with the characters that weren't involved in the greater plot, so didn't really affect things when there were too many characters. Mostly affected things when it was just 4.
Yeah.
But Silver and Blaze are right there in the thick of there being way too many named characters going around. And if they weren't there, we could have gotten more focus on Amy. Maybe Amy could have been more justified in being here. We could have gotten more focus on Ruse and Sato. Mm-hmm. That could have been nice.
Yeah, and in fact, like, lots of annoying moments in the comic are from Silver and Blaze's presence.
Yeah.
So, they took away. They took away.
Yeah.
Shadow.
The point of Sato is basically that he saves the day. This issue, spoiler. I mean, it's a review.
Yeah. We have spoilers in the title.
Yeah.
So, you know. Yeah.
As we will get to later in the issue review, he is ultimately the one to actually save the day. Sonic gets the final blow because he's the main character, and if he doesn't do it, who will? But you know, Sato is the one with the chaos control. He is the one to make sure that all the things go good.
Yep. Then we have Rouge.
Unfortunately, Rouge, in the story as present, I don't think needs to be here. Neither does Omega, because I don't think either of them provided anything. If Silver and Blaze weren't here, then Rouge and Omega would have been necessary, because, you know, there would have been a spot for them.
Yeah.
But as it stands, Silver and Blaze just take up way too much room.
That's how the story was structured, was just that, like, we have these two issues, and you know, Sonic, Tangle, Whisper, and Lanlin are here. That's already 4 characters. That was already enough for multiple past story arcs.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, then we add Tails, Amy, Silver, Blaze. Okay, that's already more than too much. Mm-hmm. And all right. Well, we are overstuffed with the cast, but at least that's all. Oh, wait, what's that? It's Shadow, Rouge, Omega. What the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah, so I guess Ruse and Omega get the Schrodinger's stamp of approval, where if we can just remove Silver and Blaze, they need to be here. But with Silver and Blaze present, you might as well take them out.
Yeah, so... And
You
Eggman,
can't
he's the
even
villain.
really. Yeah, he has to be here. He's the reason everyone else is here.
Yeah.
If he wasn't here, no one else would be here.
Yes.
Which would be great for me. No
Ah,
comic, no arc. Just
yeah. Bliss.
but you can't even make the argument that like Ruse adds emotional resonance because it was so badly done that it might not even have been there.
Yeah, might
She
as
was
well not
like
have.
gloomy in a corner because Sato was maybe dead, but he wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so... Okay, so for people who get a full point, there's Sonic, Tangle, and Shadow.
Yeah,
Half a
and
points are awarded to Whisper the Wolf and Tails,
mm-hmm.
and shortages points to Rouge the Bat and Omega.
Yeah. So yeah, if it was just Sonic, Tangle, Whisper, Tails, Sato, Ruse, and Omega, yeah, this probably would have been better.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're not reviewing a hypothetical what-if comic where it's not packed to the gill, full of characters. Like, can I just bring up why are there so many characters? Why now? Why randomly in an arc that goes from like what 58 to 61 or something?
57 to
57?
61.
Like with the amount of characters and the amount of like fan favorites just sewing up for no reason, it feels like this is meant to be issue 50.
Yeah, and like...
But instead it's just randomly here in the after drippings of issue 50 because issue 50 had such a long fucking Sato that we're only this issue getting away from it.
God, I'm...
And it's issue 61. God.
Can't wait for us to get to my favorite part of the comic.
Yeah.
But I think without further ado, we're on to the first page of the comic book, about like half an hour into our review.
We had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, the comic opens up on a really big, just view of the tower that is on legs.
Yeah, and as far as like substance goes in this first page, there's basically nothing, because it's just Eggman saying "I have one," Sonic saying "Not yet," and Eggman being like, "Well, essentially, I have."
Yeah, it's just some gloating, and then in what felt like a very abrupt moment to me, Sonic charges at Eggman and then gets caught in a Pokeball.
Yeah. How will he ever get out of that?
How indeed.
Anyway,
Eggman sends Metal after the rest. He does physical violence on Tails and then charges at Amy, who is blocking with his hammer, or her hammer, and then Tangle is like, oh, no, I won't lose anyone, and grabs Metal on the leg.
and realizes that she is in fact tangible.
And then Eggman also realizes this, and so he picks her up by the scruff of her neck.
Bah.
And as he gets ready to comically punch him in the back of his head with her tail fist, and then he puts a fucking gun to her temple.
Which, you know, I'm just gonna say, like, with Sonic comics, the older ones, people make a big fuss out of, like, very tame stuff happening in those older comics because they want to disingenuously paint, like, the writer as, like, this horrible, like, depraved man planting his sin bombs into this children's comic. And, like, even though, like, the CCA, the Comics Code Authority, was in effect the entire time he was on there, but, like,
Yeah.
I'm just looking at just the things that happen in this comic. I don't think Eggman ever needs to put a gun to a character's fate, to a character's head, in this Sonic comic book. That's me.
I don't know why Eggman keeps having a gun.
I
Yes, he had a gun one time in Sonic Adventure 2. I remember it. He was holding Amy hostage by gunpoint and all that, and whatever. It was like the one time he ever had a gun.
And honestly, let's all be real here. We're not focusing on the gun when we think back on that on that like cutscene, on that
Yeah.
moment.
Also, that gun was a massive, unwieldy laser cannon with a fucking scope on it. It was so silly. This is kind of silly. It's red and looks like it's made of tubes and isn't drawn very well.
Yeah.
That last part probably isn't on purpose. But it's just a fucking pistol.
Yeah. It's a fucking Nerf gun.
Anyway, Eggman in the next page continues to hold a fucking gun to Tangle's head. And he gloats a lot.
But then
And
Lanolin shows up.
yeah, and also I guess I should point out that there's like very little in the way of backgrounds happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of gradients in this
A
comic.
lot of gradients and lines and just colors and darkness and flat black and so yeah.
It really doesn't help the overall lack of like scene setting this story has had a problem with like throughout its run.
Yeah. Lanolin shows up and Eggman has no idea who she is.
Yeah.
And then she's like, the diamond cutters happened. And then there's a weird, for some reason she has a panel where her eye is like really narrowed.
Yeah, she's got like a little line coming out, like she's gonna use her static shock powers. It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Yeah,
Also,
and then
Eggman says, "Who are you people?" Implying that he is looking at Lanolin and Whisper, but then there's a panel of Whisper jumping high into the air and
so I think the intention is like when someone survives the thing that they were supposed to, and you're like, who are you? And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be like that, like dramatically,
I guess
like.
so.
But it doesn't come across because he just kind of comes out of nowhere, and like, who are the you people? Is it supposed to be Tangle, who you have a gun to?
I guess she's part of it because he just calls her Lemur.
Who are these people? I know Sonic.
He doesn't read the comics.
I don't read the comics. Who are all these girls?
Ah.
Anyway, there's a bad line where Lanolin says, but mostly we intend,
And then
Whisper finishes, to be a problem. And then she hits him with her hammer, and he goes comically spinning into metal.
Yeah.
It's not well drawn.
Mm-hmm. But enough of that. Who cares?
Anyway, as we saw in the last time in the story so far, Silver was tearing through Shadow's yellow crystal cage he was in. So here at Shadow's green crystal cage.
Oh God.
Look, I would just like some basic continuity. Like, if we can't even have a distinct, specific look for this fucking nonsense city that isn't going to be anyone's problem soon, can we at least keep the colors consistent?
You know, I just really wish this comic had an editor. You know?
Anyway, as we all remember, Team B, I believe it was, or Team A?
Yeah.
Team whichever this team was of course Silver, Ruse, and Omega. Because that's the only ones that are here.
Get ready for Blaze.
Who's Blaze?
Get ready for her to suddenly show up later.
Last issue, Blaze was right there, next to Silver, being like, you can do it, Silver, and not doing anything else. And now she's gone. Apparently, I don't know, she's wherever the Shadow Androids are. Because also, they were there. there's this pointless exchange where basically it's just a worse version of something that Evan Stanley did in a better comic years ago, which is more the behavior I expect from Ian Flynn, honestly.
Honestly, yeah. You go read the Silver Age. That's a good comic.
Yeah, if you want a comic to have an emotionally resonant moment involving Silver referencing the line "It's no use,"
Yeah.
read the Silver Age, because this comic won't fucking give it to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, Sadow's like, "Oh, it's too much energy. I have a headache." And Silver's like, "You're the ultimate life form. You're not gonna let a rock tell you what to do." And then I guess he pulls the rocks off of Sadow, or maybe Sadow makes the rocks go off, because Silver also falls down on his butt afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm not clear exactly who did what. And then Sadow is like, "You're right. I am the ultimate."
It's a wooden dialogue that I would expect from Ian. But next page, we're back to the A team.
Yeah. Tails does some technobabble to be like, "Oh, the batteries went off, and that's how you got out." And then Lanolin takes the cowbell off of her neck, and it transforms. Okay, so I think
it's like a hammer.
Like, well, it's not. It's so the cowbell separates into two halves and then goes up, and the part of the bell that does the ringing becomes a handle.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a glowing purple bit that I assume is the wisp, and so it's like a weird sound blaster, probably.
Okay.
Well, it's like a bell that you hold, like a handbell, but it's not together. Anyway, she swings it and it goes skjong and makes sound waves happen, and then I guess destroys the floor.
Yeah, and it's just there's a dialogue from Eggman who it isn't very good. It feels like just filler from like a video game.
Yeah, he just says, "Impossible. My city is perfect."
That's what he says after you.
You reach the part of his life bar.
At the end of the boss battle, he says, "Impossible! My city is perfect!"
And then he says, "Metal, crush them." But then Tails has more technobabble. Technobabble that fails at being at all dramatic because Sonic is taking up so much of the fucking bottom half of this page. Why did you not put the Sonic reveal that he's back on the next page? Why did you not structure it so that next page has Sonic? I guess you just didn't have enough pages. It didn't. You had too many story, too much page. Should have structured it better. The whole arc.
After 5 whole pages, Sonic isn't lost, and in fact, he is back.
Yeah, and it's weird that, like, I don't know which panel's supposed to come first. Because there's a panel of Sonic facing off against Metal, but then Sonic and Metal are outside of any panels, and he's kicking Metal in the face, but he's all over the panel where Tails is, where he's talking. And it's just weird.
When Tails is talking, he is facing
Metal.
Yeah.
I know, it goes from Tails to Sonic being there, even though
Tails was right there.
He would have come from exactly where Tails is standing. God. Yeah. Like, there's not enough room for this big dramatic moment. This dramatic moment that isn't very dramatic or interesting because Sonic, again, as you said, has been gone for 5 pages.
You know, I want to say also that, like, the technobabble reason for why Lanolin and Whisper are back is because this computer system's offline. So we all shifted back into normal space. Also, the computer system was brought offline last issue. Like, am I remembering this wrong?
It was right at the end, right?
Yeah, and then after that, Sonic gets trapped, and I guess just unceremoniously he's like, "Oh, I'm back." He just respawns from Halo.
You'd think that the trap wouldn't activate in the first place. Like, was there a version of the script where Sonic got trapped, but then the city got turned off? Like, and they just didn't realize the mistake?
I don't know.
Because, yeah, the trap shouldn't have been working at all if the computer system that managed the trap was offline.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In the next page, Whisper has maybe my favorite dialogue in the whole comic. Time to go.
Time to go. Also, I want to point out that, like, there's this whole lanolin making the floor crack, and you also see a cracked window, but there's no, like, accent lines on the window to show that it's being cracked here, so I guess maybe the intent is that she cracked the window. But if so, why is she cracking the floor open? Anyway, because Metal gets kicked through the window, breaking it, and then everyone starts escaping through the window.
Yeah.
Why is the floor cracked?
Also, it is very not cracked in the second panel here on this page. That's the
Yeah.
same line to the crack where the window is. And well.
Sonic stomps on Eggman's gun, so now he can't point his gun at anyone's faces anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Sonic says, "You know, you've taken this too far, Eggman, and you know what I'm gonna do next." And then Eggman says, "Grah!" And Sonic jumps out the window, because I guess Eggman really didn't want Sonic to jump out the window.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd just like to point out that there's no panel where Tails and Amy leave, but after Sonic jumps out the window, they are already out the window.
Yeah.
Even though, again, there was no actual panel where they leave. There's a panel where they're both standing next to each other, kind of awkwardly.
Yeah.
And right before Sonic breaks Eggman's gun?
Uh-huh. But, in the next page, Sonic has, after jumping out the window, is caught by Amy.
Yeah, there's no accent for it. Sonic has just already been caught by Amy.
Yeah.
And she says "Gatsa," so that you know that to basically, I guess, to cue you in that you're supposed to look and be like, "Oh, she caught Sonic," because there's no accent to denote it.
And
then there's a giant pillar of crystal that I am given to assume has grown out in a spiral pattern under Shadow's control. Because I guess Shadow is under control of it now. And Blaze is here.
Yeah. Omega is carrying all the useless deadweight women in this comic.
Yeah, as Silver says, "Wahaha, yeah," as Shadow... He's got his hands on the ground. It feels like a reference to something, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Eggman declares that he's going to do something. He doesn't.
I just look at, like, this panel where, like, we're focusing on, like, one of the legs of the thing, and I think we're supposed to be told that it's, like, moving here. There's no motion happening.
No. Also, the perspective looks really weird on it.
It's really bad, yeah.
Anyway, we see that Metal is sliding down the side of, I guess, the leg of the building. He leaps up, kicks the small turtle off of the large turtle mech, and then flies it over to grab Sonic's hand.
Now he is hand-holding.
And takes Sonic away.
So Amy's like, "Sonic!" And Rouge is like, "No!" And Omega's like, for some reason, "Yes."
Omega is happy. And then he starts to do violence.
And Blaze has some generic dialogue about comrades, and
we cannot let our comrades fight alone.
And then a really gross drawing of Rouge happens.
Where she, for some reason, is like, "Sir, why not? I love throwing myself into danger." And why is this here? Why the fuck is this here?
I don't know why. I don't know what it adds, but Sonic beats Metal. That's the only important thing that happens in this
Yeah.
page, if you can even call that important.
Um. Yeah, I guess I don't know what the point is of Ruse doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Blaze throws some fireballs that aren't effective, and Omega uses machine Gatling guns, which aren't effective.
Mm-hmm.
But then Sonic kicks Metal at the same time that Omega switches to his wrist missiles, which then hits Metal.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone assumes that Metal is defeated because we see nothing of him afterwards. He's gone
Yep.
from the comic. And then suddenly Ruse is there carrying Sonic.
In a very weird pose.
With a weird expression and a really off-model face.
Yeah. So
Then we see that at some point, Whisper, Tangle, Lanolin, Tails, and Amy all became on part of the growing crystal tower that is apparently happening.
yeah.
Eggman, I guess, shoots lasers at the crystal tower, which does not react at all and doesn't show any signs of being structurally unstable. But
So of course
Silver
Silver's
asks, how many hits like that can we take? And then Sato does a chaos control to teleport crystals around the tower, which has not walked anywhere. Eggman shoots some more lasers.
yeah.
Sato chaos controls again, and the crystals all grow.
Mm-hmm.
And then they trap the legs of the thing. Not that they were doing anything anyway. Like, there was no point where there was any discrete movement happening with the tower.
Yeah. And then with this with this cage that has been built, Sonic has an appropriate reaction for my state at this point in the comic. Just, okay. Before
Sonic and Blaze hold hands and run very quickly, and then Blaze throws
I
Sonic.
just want to call attention to Sonic's like, okay, Blaze, would you please help me do the important thing? And Blaze's like, yes, I will help you, the man, do the important thing.
Yeah, but Sonic's not done asking women to help him do the important thing. Because then now Amy, who is now flying with the sport of tails again, even though she was firmly on a piece of ground earlier last time we saw her, but she's flying again. Hits him with the Pico Pico hammer and moves him up, and then in a very bizarre sequence of events that I don't understand, Sonic is above Sato and Silver.
He's where he needs to be.
Yeah, he says, let's finish this. And then we move the camera down to Tangle and Whisper.
What the fuck are they doing here?
Who are holding hands, and then... What? Tangle flings her tail to Sonic, who grabs it, while Whisper is suddenly 20 feet away.
And then they're right up next to each other.
And then they're right up next to each other so that Whisper can rocket jump. And then after they've rocket jumped into the air, Tangle uses Tail Whip to fling Sonic into the top of the building, which makes a large generic explosion while Eggman's face is present. And then there's a sound that goes zzz, Sato's like, by the way, the crystals are going to explode, so you should probably not be there.
In
then
a
the crystals
particularly inspired bit of dialogue, go protect the others unless you want to lose them. You know, just in case Silver's like, actually, I was just thinking I have too many friends.
Then we see Sonic and Tangle and Whisper jumping from an exploding crystal.
Yeah.
Omega is still shooting bullets, while Silver talks to everyone mostly who's in silhouette. Um, then Sato does a big chaos control and moves all of the crystals into space where they explode harmlessly in all 7 colors of the emerald rainbow.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
we've basically figured out what happened during that moment.
Sonic says, "Shadow, did you?" And then they just kind of like stare at the sky.
While it is pretty.
Pretty crystals.
Yeah, so I wanna really though focus on Sonic is maneuvered to above Shadow and Silver, and then suddenly Tangle and Whisper are present.
Mm-hmm.
There is why what? What is happening here?
It's very, very, very bizarre.
I also don't really know why Tangle and Whisper are here. Like they've technically been relevant throughout the story arc, but like not like that much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It just feels weird for them to be part of the moment at the end. Also, like Tangle flings Sonic and he has a big explosion, and then there's like this panel where they're all in silhouette and Sonic is on Tangle's tail, maybe having landed there, but like there's no clear lines of action happening.
Yeah. It's a fucking mess is what it is.
Anyway, we just abruptly cut to a picnic.
Where's Sonic's... Belle is here. I like Belle.
Yeah, Lanolin isn't.
Waylon fucked off. Thank goodness our brand new friend Lanolin is a real character now.
So yeah, Tangle and Whisper, Silver and Blaze, Belle, Tails, Ruse is here, Sonic is here. Amy has baked a cake.
With Jewel?
Jewel is also here to help deliver the cake.
Mm-hmm. No dialogue.
Yeah, no dialogue from Jewel.
She's also... There's like I guess what I have to call a gag in the comic where like Amy leaves the cake with Jewel and it is way too heavy for tiny bug Jewel.
Well, they're both carrying it because it's a very big cake. But then when Amy notices that Ruse has a thing that she stole,
yeah,
and Amy's like, that's clearly an echidna thing. Knuckles should have it. And so when she abandons the cake to lecture Ruse about stealing, it almost is destroyed the cake, but Tails is there to save the day. And it's just a setup for the fact that Amy's going to go to Angel Island next issue.
Yeah.
Not a really interesting setup. Not a setup that has any particular point to it.
Speaking of pointless things that don't really have any impact, this last page.
Yeah. Sonic has left the picnic before eating the cake, which upsets Amy because she wanted Sonic to eat the cake she baked. Because she has romantic feelings for him. And Sonic wanted to go wee.
He goes off a ramp in Green Hill Zone. And that's the end of this miserable arc. My favorite part was when we were away from Imperial City and we were never going to have to see it again. Just best part. Oh, God.
The comic ends saying, next time, Amy on Angel Island, the thing that it set up the previous page.
Yeah.
So it was bad, and it wasn't good.
There's something I'm going to bring up, which is also a similar, like the rest of the comic, just a meaningless thing that I just want to bring up because I feel like people are going to wonder why we didn't bring up. So
we didn't not know about it. I noticed it when it happened. I just skipped over it because it didn't matter. Um,
Earlier in the
uh,
comic.
so yeah, as you may recall from when Sonic was above Shadow and Silver
Hmm.
and was like, let's finish this, and then suddenly, uh, for no reason, we were cutting to Tangle and Whisper, even though we just set up that Shadow and Silver were presumably going to be involved. When they hold hands and there is yet another gradient background behind them, because that's most of what this comic's backgrounds are, it feels like.
Hmm.
The particular gradient is one variation of a lesbian pride flag, the most popular one that has like orange at the top and like purple at the bottom and is meant to like represent a sunset.
It's the one that people have settled on, honestly. Like it's the one that's in
Yeah,
like fucking video games that are cashing in on Pride. So you know, it's the one.
yeah. Believe people tend to refer to it as like the sunset flag. I think
But yeah,
maybe it vaguely resembles a sunset. Not so much you'd mistake it for a sunset, a real one, but
yeah, it's there, and it's behind Tangle and Whisper as they are holding hands in this panel that honestly probably could have been cut so they could have like more just set up the action in the scene.
yeah,
But yeah, we noticed it, and I've definitely seen some reactions to it that have been like, okay, all right, it's time. They're gonna happen. They're gonna be a couple, and I don't think this necessarily confirms that. And I'm gonna bring up that like there have been multiple stories where it just kind of came out afterward that the artist or the color artist or both just kind of snuck something in.
yeah.
There was Hit the Pavement, which just snuck in an OK Go OK
A
KO.
cartoon. I don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah.
It's a cartoon.
It's just an annoying character for the kind of ableist caricature that was present in that issue. And then also in Trial by Fire, the inker and color artist just kind of made one of the characters in Trial by Fire's background look like Garfield the cat.
Yeah. Something I want to bring up is that Tangle and Whisper, ever since they were paired together for a miniseries, have been a very popular romantic sip among the fandom, as well as among various people who work on the comic officially.
Yes.
And those people who work on the comic have made many, many, many little hints and teases to a possibility of them having some kind of romantic relationship. However, it is well known, and has been talked about by the head writer, Evan Stanley, that Sega has no particular interest in portraying romance of any sort in their comic. And so any romantic relationship is not something that is basically considered to be on the table by anyone in the know, including, the people working on the comic. Despite this, many people working on the comic have put in these little hints and references to the possibility of a relationship while knowing that they have no ability or plans to move forward and make them an actual canon relationship.
Thus bring
Otherwise
us to
known as queerbaiting.
thus bring us to the thing that people are never happy about when I bring up, but it's always true.
The fact is that regardless of whether or not the people working on the comic would like to make Tangle and Whisper a canon relationship within the pages of the comics, no one on the comic seems to see a path forward where they can accomplish it, given the fact that Sega does not want to portray romantic relationships within their Sonic the Hedgehog comic.
Frankly, they know damn well it ain't gonna happen until Sega changes their mind, and we've been given no indication that they have changed their mind.
So, quite frankly, as long as things like this, like putting a lesbian pride flag behind these two while knowing that there's not going to be any kind of relationship is happening, it will constitute queerbaiting just on the face of it.
Yes.
Even if it's well-intentioned, it is what is happening. And in fact, people are getting baited by this. People are getting queer-baited and thinking, oh yes, now surely their relationship will happen. And I don't see a relationship happening in this comic. unless someone in the comic decides that skipping past the part where they become romantic and just referencing them as being a couple, which I think could be the closest thing they could get, but I don't think anyone in the comic has either thought of it or thinks it would be satisfying, if they have thought of it. But unless they want to do something like that, which I think is the only way they could probably get Sega to agree to it, because...
It's something I thought about.
Keep in mind, Evan Stanley has actually put a gay couple in the comic. It just hasn't been explicit, and, it hasn't been referenced. However, she stated directly to Sega that these two characters, Night and Dawn, were a gay couple, and that was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on a romance, not fine. The presence of people who are in a romantic relationship, fine.
Yeah. It's something I thought about.
Yeah.
Because, these two characters were not, unlike Night and Dawn, Tangle and Whisper were not created together.
Mm-hmm.
They were not pitched together. I don't know what was part of the pitch for each of their characters. I don't know if Ian included in the pitch for Tangle the Lemur that she was a lesbian. Or that that's anything he's even considered on a serious level. Tangle's definitely a more tomboyish character than we usually see. It's very apparent, and everyone's been picking up those vibes, and it's sort of reinforced the general, okay, she's kind of queer,
But I should, of course, point out that what we do know about how Tangle's creation is that she was there to be, quote, a kick-butt gal. In other words, a tomboy was basically the only direction to go in to make her tough, because that's what you get.
So. Yeah.
Because, there were some rather misogynistic comments made about other, girl Sonic characters around the time
I really didn't appreciate that. And ultimately,
Tangle was created.
I do enjoy Tangle a lot, and I think she is a marvelous character. Definitely a credit to Ian and everyone who's worked on her and in creating her, that they made what they have. But, I didn't appreciate at all just Ian's rationale for making her, which was just that, Amy's all over the place. Ruth
at
has
least
an odd
his
sex
stated
appeal.
rationale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It could be that he was just trying to justify himself. I don't know. I'm not him. But his publicly stated rationale was misogynistic. So
that's all we got. So I don't know if they can retroactively just put that in, or if it's something that has to come up in the pitch. I don't know. Because there's characters who are pretty set in stone, no matter how much people will feel otherwise about what their character should be. Like in DC, I think it was said once that they're pretty set on the sexuality characters who have been action figures. they're not gonna move on that. And I don't know if the culture's changed there since, but that's a general mindset that is prevalent in a lot of ways, and I think that may be happening here, but we don't know.
We don't know, because the only things we get to learn about behind the scenes are whatever any particular writer or artist wants to talk about.
Mm-hmm. More often than not,
typically
complain about.
Yeah. Typically, we get more in-depth details from writers because they are actually pitching the stories. But even then, because there are, of course, a lot of details they can't talk about, we can only get snippets. We can basically only get... After a story is completely done, a writer will sometimes say what they wanted to do, what they would have preferred to do, what they chose not to do, stuff like that. But, we won't get, any sort of details about, of course, things they are actively trying to pitch. So, for all we know, there are pitches going on that are trying, in earnest to make Tangle and Whisper a thing, and Sega's just not having it because, again, they don't want romance in the comic. Or maybe that's not happening.
It's
I don't know.
It's tricky because here's the thing. We have never heard on Evan's Tumblr or on the Bumblecast podcast that Ian hosts
that we know of. We don't watch every episode.
I'm just gonna say I would have fucking heard about it if he brought it up. I'm just gonna say, with the people I follow on Twitter.
I do want to point out that there have been times when Ian Flynn has said something on his Bumblecast, and then 4 months later, people have reacted to it and noticed it. So,
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know. Maybe he said something only 3 months ago.
it would have to have been recent, but I'm just saying, like, for a
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
time, we were hearing about humans in Sonic, Team Dark. Is it real? Is it not? Oh, can we have Blaze melt Zombots alive? And just so many things that like that were part of like pitches or works in progress, and like things that Ian was frustrated about not being able to put in, like Team Dark. He would bring it up how he wanted it so fucking bad, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't sign off on it, and he would talk about it. He would bring it up. He would bring it up even when no one else was bringing it up, and we haven't heard shit about Tangle and Whisper.
Yeah.
We haven't heard shit about Tangle and Whisper as a relationship from any of the writers. The one time I have seen with my own two eyes a staff member of the IDW Sonic Creative Team talking about about those two as a relationship, the possibility of it, was just, I believe, Minho Kim on Tumblr, an artist, just saying, yeah, it'll only happen if Sega signs off on it.
Yeah.
And that's it. So it's hard to wrap my head around with like everything I have been shown and told against my will, also a lot of the time, about the behind the scenes of this comic, and what I've heard against my will about that part of the comic's creation. Just like, it leads me to believe that, like, if it was actually something that was pitched and shot down, I would have heard about it, which would lead me to believe that maybe either people are showing a unheard of amount of restraint, or it hasn't been pitched.
Yeah, I mean, I will point out that, of course, like, if a writer has pitched something that was shot down, but they intend to pitch it again, but differently, they probably won't talk about that. So, if Tangle and Whisper is an ongoing project that is maybe, being discussed, and here's the thing, of course, just because something is something that wants to be done doesn't mean necessarily that it has gotten pitched. There could be, for all we know, there could be discussions going on between the writers and the editors, and they could be just deciding now's not the time, or maybe we shouldn't, but maybe later, and that could be happening, and we could just not know. But as I said before, based on everything we do know, I can only consider any hint of Tangle and Whisper that happens under this paradigm by which no romantic relationships are considered to be likely. It's queerbaiting, as I said before, based on all of the available evidence we have.
Yeah. So that's long and short of that. And otherwise, that's the story arc. That's Urban Warfare. I have no respect for it. That was a bad story arc. They did a bad job. Lots of people worked on this story arc, and it ended up very bad, with like maybe one good moment you could give it credit for, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out also, I think a lot of people did bad work on this. A lot of people worked on this. A lot of that work was sit.
Yeah.
There's just not great stuff happening here, and I want to directly talk about the editors here, because what the hell? What the fuck is this?
What are you doing here?
This five issue?
Yeah.
This 5-issue arc was paced so haphazardly. This final issue was at least basically paced well, but even it has issues where, like, why is the reveal of Sonic being back not on its own page when, like, it doesn't have any impact? If you can't help but notice the huge amount of blue and red at the bottom of the page.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
And, like, just, there were an incredibly slow-going first two issues, weird Rust stuff going on in 3 and 4, and then right here at the end, it all just kind of culminates to not much.
Yeah. I feel confident enough to say that this is probably the worst work we've seen Evan Stanley put out in this comic as for her tenure on it.
Yeah.
This story arc, and maybe just this issue. But
I don't know. I seem to remember the last issue being very, very bad.
It was very bad. It's a tight race, but yeah. But yeah, I really hope. I mean, we both hope that this comic just gets better with the coming arc, and I mean, not really an arc. It's more going to be like a series of like short, contained times. And honestly, I kind of have to hope that'll help fix this horrible just time we've been having, because it's been just these long, drawn out bullshit times.
Rain Runting and Sat pointed something out. They said, I feel like I actually could have eked some enjoyment out if every issue wasn't illustrated like they were. Every issue was muddy, unclear, and downright confusing visually. And I agree a lot on, not on the eking enjoyment out, but this comic, these issues, this storyline was really badly drawn and just structured.
Yeah.
We kept coming back to it, sometimes focusing on it more than others, but like this comic, I want to point out, and I have been pointing out, has some really unclear lines of action. It has some really bad drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are just some unpleasant looking facial expressions, particularly on Ruse, I noticed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Adam? Weird how you keep drawing these very particular expressions on this woman, Adam.
Whatever turns you on. But
seemingly not Ruse based on the
oh boy. Oh man. Do we talk about next issue now?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else to point out. I don't think so. It's so weird that there even is this like picnic at the end for 2 1/4 pages? No, 2 1/3. 2 and like 40% of a page. Let's say.
Yeah. Cause it's like half of one of the first page it's on. I mean,
not quite really. Half. No, it's like 40%.
It's 40%, and then it's all of one page. So then it's like.
I mean, it's there for the whole page. It's just this ending part, this little segment at the end. This is the point. It's like, we're here at a picnic. Amy baked a cake. Ruse, give that back to Knuckles. Okay, I'll do it. Wait, where's Sonic? He left because he is the fast boy. Where's Lanolin? Like, I get why Sato and Omega are not here. They are not party fellows.
Mm-hmm.
But where's Lanolin? And I like Jewel. Why is Jewel here? She feels so out of place.
Why isn't it Lanolin? Character here.
Why is Lanolin not the one helping carry the cake?
Mm-hmm.
It would make more sense because, Jewel is busy and Lanolin was present for the events that everyone's winding down from.
Yeah.
But Lanolin is gone! Why did we spend so much time with Lanolin being in this issue only to make her disappear? Like she's Blaze or something.
The amazing disappearing Blaze. Oh boy. We're living in a real renaissance for bad Sonic comics these days. Oh man. But next issue comes out July 5th, issue 62, and we're just gonna say that right now. That's current right now. It's July 5th. It may delay like 17 times, but like right now, as of recording, it's coming out on July 5th.
Yeah.
And I guess now, without further ado, I guess I should go over the solicit for next issue.
Yeah.
The solicit for IDW Sonic issue 62, with Dr. Eggman and Surge subdued for now. Sonic and friends have a chance to relax, reset, and plan for the future. Join us for a set of misadventures in our brand new story arc, I guess they're calling it that, starting here in issue 62 and running full speed through 66. First, Amy visits Knuckles on Angel Island to return a relic. The island, as always, has a few surprises in store for them as they catch up. That was me repeating, by the way. That was in the solicit from the Sonic Wiki. They just have for them repeated twice as they catch up. Meanwhile, Mimic is putting together the perfect disguise to infiltrate the Restoration. It's going to be disguised as a cat.
Yeah.
And that's the solicit.
So, that solicit didn't do a very good job of explaining what's happening, but basically, the comic is getting a temporary format change for starting from next time, where there's going to be an A story and a B story, as the solicit said, until through issue 66. Seemingly, based on the solicits we've gotten so far, including ones after that, it seems like Ian Flynn and Evan Stanley are going to be writing on... We're both going to be writing on each issue, as far as we know, each time?
Besides issue 62, where it's just Ian.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I can look right now, here.
Okay,
Because I remember it was it was just Ian for issue 62, and then issue 63, Evan joins in. But okay, as of recording, Ian is the only credited writer on the Sonic Wiki's page for it, and
okay.
And then issue 63, of course, features like this Hurt Comfort fanfic for the B story, but it's actually being written by Ian, even though the Tales channel post for it made it look like Evan was writing that, but Evan is writing the story where Silver is jumping to conclusions about a potential traitor of the Freedom Fighters. I mean the Restoration.
I bet it's Antoine.
I bet it's Antoine. It's gotta be Antoine.
Oh no, Antoine's in the hospital. It can't be him.
Oh no.
Don't you feel bad, Silver,
Don't
that
you
you were
feel
accusing
bad?
of a man in the hospital?
Don't you feel bad? Like, besides for the reason that you had your face dragged through all of Mobotropolis to the hospital.
Anyway, we're talking about old comics now.
Yeah, bad old comics.
Bad old comics, but same
Yeah.
writer. Well, not same writer, but
Not this time, but yeah. The comic is making us think about Archie with this whole story arc, and also with Evan referencing her Silver Age thing she did.
yeah, and also apparently referencing the thing Silver was doing for a large amount of the Archie Sonic series when he was present, looking for the traitor,
and also referencing also with Surge, obviously, and they're making us really think about this much better comic we used to have.
Well, not always much better, in some ways worse. But anyway. So, the comic is moving to a series of smaller, more self-contained, but probably not really self-contained, because this is usually what you do when you switch to smaller self-contained stories, is you make a through line and then have a payoff of some kind. Mm-hmm. But, the face front of it, what we're being told, is that we're basically getting self-contained stories that are smaller and are going to feature both Ian Flynn and Evan Stanley writing these smaller stories. It's believed just going to be, in general, more slice of life. So it's going to be a break from having way too much contiguous story. Mm-hmm. We've been on a basically uninterrupted train ever since issue 50 or 49 or whichever one. 49, I guess. Technically Imposter Syndrome, but I don't know. The comic has just been going on, again, the long shadow of issue 50, and that 11-issue shadow is finally over.
It's finally fucking done.
The following issues will be more self-contained, and I don't know, maybe they'll be interesting. Mm-hmm. From the face of it, I'm not particularly looking forward to, I think, any of the individual stories. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm only worried
Yeah, me too, me
Because
too.
the main thing that I picked up on as being something that actually matters is the fact that uh, Mimic,
Mm-hmm.
who you might remember from having not appeared so long in the comic that even as we've been reviewing the comic for over a year, he's not sewed up.
We've never talked about Mimic, the mimic octopus whose parents named him Mimic after the name of his species.
Yeah, Mimic the Mimic Octopus is going to be disguising himself as a cat, a specific cat who exists, one he created himself. I don't know. Will this tie
God,
into the missing persons plotline that never got resolved?
I am just dying for his name to be like Feline the cat.
I hope he has a really crappy pseudonym that's
Mm-hmm.
very obviously fake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Give us a real Hugh
And
man.
like redundant because his name is
Hmm.
Mimic, the
Yeah.
mimic octopus. You know, everyone Famickies call him Charmy the bee, but no one says Mimic the mimic octopus. You know, that's his God-given name.
So yeah, I'd like to think that there is some real potential in having Mimic be infiltrating the Restoration base. There could be some interesting storylines to tell, or it could be complete and utter fucking dog shit, especially if it ends too soon.
Yeah. I think our main hope, as we've been talking about this outside of streams, is just that we hope it gets time to cook.
Yeah, I really want Mimic to get in to be an infiltration and for it to just not get revealed at all in this slice of life mini arc thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to not come up in the next arc.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to not come up until at least the arc after next.
Mm-hmm.
Will that happen? I don't know. But I would, with something like this, I would like there to just be, there was a while in X-Men in the 90s where there was just an evil alternate universe, alternate timeline Hank McCoy who'd taken over the place of the real one and was making everything worse.
Yeah.
And the heroes didn't realize it was happening until a long time.
Uh-huh. Man.
He was not the real McCoy.
Oh boy. Real McCoy.
Hmm.
Yeah, but comic book. It's not been good lately, and I'm not inclined to believe that it's gonna be suddenly taking its time with a new story beat.
Yeah. I mean, didn't take its time with the Tangle and Whisper forced drama, but hey, we've got a team called the Diamond Cutters now. Woo!
Branding! Branding now!
Now Tangle and Whisper have branding and a third wheel.
we
Just
can
what they needed.
we can bring this up at the next mobile event for Tango Whisper.
We can add in lanolin. Oh, it's the Diamond
Oh.
Cutters.
But yeah, that's the comic book. It wasn't
Yeah.
very good. We're about done talking about it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And next time we'll hopefully be talking about a better comic book. But for right now, I'm Felicia Rondo. That's close over there.
It sure is.
Bye.
Read Poison Ivy instead.